Okay, you guys good? And I'm gonna let them all in.
Yep. Okay, hey everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to the Morris Brandon GOTeam meeting, where we're going to follow the agenda posted on the screen, which has been emailed to you and publicly noted. I would like to remind everyone this is a meeting of the GOTeam. We are going to have public comment today, as you'll see later down here on the agenda. And I'm pleased to call this meeting of Morris Brandon GOTeam to order at 3:34 p.m. Our first order of business is to call roll. Kim, do you need me to do that?
Nope, I got it. I have it right here. Hold on, I'm getting in my car. Okay, LaJoy, I'll just read them off. And sorry, I'm on my phone, so if you can just say your name, say yes.
Yep, I'm here.
I can okay, thank you. Thomas, I heard
Yep.
you.
Yep.
Jay.
Here.
Ashley S is here, obviously. Ashley M is on a plane, I think.
Yes.
Mindy is running late, we heard. Maggie is here. I am here. Is Edna here? I couldn't see her.
I'm here.
Yay.
Here. Yep. Miss Minox here.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay, we have a quorum.
All right. Perfectly. Perfect. Okay, so our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided. It's on the screen. Copies are here. Any changes to the agenda today? If not, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. I think that was Thomas and who was that? Was that
LaJoy?
LaJoy. Okay. Thank you, LaJoy. All right. May everyone in favor please say aye. So the record votes.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay. Now we're going to review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes were emailed out last week. Was there any corrections? If anyone had corrections to any of those minutes?
I didn't have any corrections. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Thomas. A second.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Ina. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay. So our first discussion item is going to just be hearing about some information on the state security grant for the school survey. And I'll just read really quickly. This is from the GOTeam office here. The governor is proposing a grant aimed at enhancing security in schools statewide. If it is approved, it has not been approved yet by the Georgia General Assembly. This grant would allocate $45,000 annually to each school. So the operations division at APS really wanted to gather insights from everyone's GOTeam regarding the most effective ways to utilize the grant to enhance security within our school. And they want to get our input. So Jay, I'll probably kick it over to you now to have our input question discussion.
Okay, awesome. Thank y'all so much for being here. Thank you, GOTeam, for the hard work y'all have done this year. I mean it. I appreciate it. Believe it or not, we only have one more meeting after this. We are here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to talk through a few things, and we're going to have a chance for everybody to get my share button here, for everybody to provide a little bit of input. And yeah, we'll go from there. We're going to try and keep the meeting at an hour. And we're going to start public comment pretty early today, just in case anybody wants to come off mute and share some feedback and ideas they have. I love seeing so many community members here, you know, as we value our community's feedback for sure. So hopefully you can see my screen. Thumbs up. Okay, good. Yep. All right, this is how it's going to work today. It's going to be a little bit of a different format. So for the first 30 minutes or so, I'm going to give each GOTeam member an opportunity to take about 2 minutes to share their thoughts on this Good Dough funding. I'm going to provide just a little context before that as well, so you're not kept in the dark. It can include any new options or any ideas on how you see that funding going forward. You all have seen the survey and you know what the options are on there as well. GOTeam is then going to have about 1 minute or 2 minutes to ask any clarifying questions or to engage in any dialogue regarding these suggestions. So for example, if I go first and I talk, then you guys will have a minute or so to just ask me any questions that you think you have, any clarifying questions or anything along those lines. And I've asked and I've tasked our secretary to take careful notes. And I also have my notepad here and I'm taking those notes as well. Okay. Public comment format, we're going to open it up right about 4 o'clock, the goal, that's the goal. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have our community members who want to speak to raise their hand. You can raise your virtual, your digital hand. If you don't know how to do that, I'll look out for your real hand. But and I'll just call on you kind of one at a time. All right. Typically, when you come off mute and you speak, it's a great strategy to turn your camera on. But if not, totally fine. We like to put names to faces, but if not, or you're in an area you're not able to do that, totally understand that as well. Obviously, GOTeam members that are able to will turn their cameras on, as that's what we ask. But I do know that there may be 1 or 2 people that are either in an airport or on an airplane or just trying to make sure they're catching this meeting. So if there is a GOTeam member's camera off, that is most likely the reason why, and they have let us know. Okay. Couple things about public comment, because we haven't had too much of that this year, but in the past we've had it before. So I just want to remind anybody who wants to speak today that is our public comment or not a member of the GOTeam. I'm just going to review these down here. Want to make sure you had 4 opportunities throughout the year. This is number 4, I believe. And we want to make sure that you understand that it's really just a one-way conversation, the same way the Board of Education works, that we don't really engage in dialogue. Happy to have conversations outside of GOTeam. We have taken careful notes, but we want to hear your feedback. And just so you know, there's not going to be a whole lot of back and forth. I'm allotting at least 20 minutes, maybe a little bit more. I'm not worried about the 2 business days notice. Don't worry about that. Typically, GOTeam comments, we try and keep it at about 2 minutes. I think the Board of Education is 3 minutes. I'm not quite sure, or it's 2 minutes. Thank you. Yes, it is 2 minutes. So, you know, that's our goal. But again, you know, I don't want to police you or come off and make it all awkward for everybody. But we are going to ask that you try and stick to that 2 minutes so we can move on in case there's other people. Okay. If you don't want to speak and you just want to be a listener, that goes for GOTeam and visitors as well. So thank you for that. And just thank you for knowing, just for being here and supporting our school in general, because that to me is the most important thing. All right. Okay, I've had a lot of questions around the Georgia DOE grant, so I just wanted to kind of show you the headshot that I got, the screenshot that I got. I have to submit this by tomorrow. I'm going to tell you that I don't believe anything is completely set in stone. I also don't think that it would be difficult at all to adjust this or to change it at all or to have more conversations and dialogue around it. I'm also not sure that this fund is going to be fully available next year or if it's going to be approved, but we want to be prepared that if this money comes our way, that we're going to know exactly what to do with it. There's a lot of questions, right? I get it. 45,000 a year. Do we get 45,000 for 2 campuses? I was not able to get a solid answer on that yet. What if we want to do improvements to our badge readers and cameras and lights, but I don't need 45,000 every year to do that. I only need a 1 year to do that, you know? So there's multiple questions that you're going to have. I'm going to ask for you to just do the best to share your opinions, your viewpoint, your feedback on what you have. And we will do the best to aggregate that. And I will do what's best for our school and for our community based on that feedback. And we're not making any final decisions today. We are not voting on anything today. This is a GOTeam feedback decision with me submitting how we would like for the $45,000 annual funds to be allotted to our school should they come our way for next year. And again, there will be more time and more ways to engage in this conversation. Any questions from GOTeam so far? Okay. I've compiled some questions that I've gotten. These are from multiple GOTeam members, and for our community members on here, I want you to know that GOTeam is fully invested in understanding your concerns and hearing what you want. And I know this because when I sent them the security survey and asked them to fill it out so I could kind of get an idea of where they stand, I had a whole lot of questions from them, and they were really great questions, and they were digging into sort of like, what have we done so far? Where's the funding coming from? A lot of it was around an SRO. How do these look? How does this look? I'm going to encourage our GOTeam members to probe and ask questions today so our community can sort of hear those answers. But at the same time, I'm going to go through them right now and hopefully put a few of them to rest. This will be part of my 2 minutes of talking, but it'll probably be a little bit longer than that, but I'm not trying to take everybody's time, I promise, okay? So do we have any questions so far around the format, public comment, the Godot survey from any of our GOTeam members or anything along those lines? Okay, awesome. Let's get started.
Actually, I do have a quick question,
ahead,
Jay. When is the Georgia Assembly, I guess, voting on this? Do we know that at all?
That's a great question. I don't know that, but if we have
Okay,
any
I'm
public
gonna add
comment,
it to my questions
yeah,
list.
I can
Okay.
add it on to that. That's a good question. But if anybody anybody here knows that, you could drop it in the chat, no problem. Or you can come off mute when it's your turn to speak and just sort of answer that question. I think some of our parents might actually know that. All right, give me 1 second. I also need to monitor and make sure that I am letting everybody in, by the way. All right, I'm getting some comments. I'm gonna have to read them at the end, y'all, via the chat. All right, what security measures have been put in place so far? This was an important question because many of the surveys questions that were on there had to do with stuff that we've already done. But I do want to sort of talk about some security enhancements that we have put into place this year. I'm talking about FY24. Due to a very generous grant from some private donors to our school, we were able to work collaboratively with our community to ensure that we have ballistic film, which is glass covering on every window that is below 7 feet across both buildings. I say that because that was one of the options for the security grant. We also increased our fencing at both buildings, where now our primary center is completely fenced in, and we've added some push gates to that. We've added a fence to the start, and we've added push gates around the back. So the increased fencing at the PC and the MC have also been installed. Not to say that there's not room for more, but I'm just letting you know what was through that private donor and those upgrades that we had. Also, what else did we do this year? Well, we didn't, just so you know what some things that APS has done, and I'm going to let people know this, is that our doors are now all labeled with alarms on them. So anytime a door opens in the middle of the day, you're going to hear a loud beeping noise. And that's more so to help with our students and student exits and things like that. We have single points of entry for our visitors across both buildings. So you have to enter through our main office area, assuming you're coming in the right way. 2 big updates that we've recently had. Number 1 is our Raptor technology system. Raptor is our new visitor management system. There used to be another system in APS, but that was taken out, and now we have a new one. You might say, well, I haven't seen it up and running yet, and that's because we are so close to getting it there. I believe main campus is up and running. You can scan your driver's license. We're getting stickers. It spits it out. And now I have a visitor management system on our screens, and our admin do, so we can see everyone that's in our building. Primary center is not up and running just yet, but we are close to that. We have rolled out our Centric badges, as you all probably know. We wear them around our neck. Every staff member at Brandon, including everybody has this badge. We hit it 3 times for office. We hit it 8 times or more for everyone else. Then that will show up at our building pretty immediately. Aside from that, universal procedures that we have are just continuing to have our AM and PM officers that are out here for carpool, as well as, and I'll get into our future improvements. Question number 2, capital improvements. Next year, we are fully slated to have our 2 vestibules installed, and I did meet with our vendors over the break. It is going to be quite a project. I am confident. They have promised me it will be done by day 1. But as you enter both buildings now, you will be funneled into the office where you will have to do your check-in. The office itself is also going to be secure. So they're building walls in our offices as well. So there's really only one person that you can get to when you enter the building, and then we will buzz you into our building. So that's all going to be happening this summer. So we're getting our 2 security vestibules finally. Thank you for our advocates that help with that. I had a question about a job description from an SRO. What does an SRO do? SRO is another term for a school resource officer. And there's a whole lot of things that a school resource officer can do. A school resource officer is not used to come into a school and stand there to thwart attacks. That's not what we use them for. It's great to have them in the rare chance that something does happen and we need an immediate response. SRO job descriptions are online, and I encourage you to look it up. But things that I see an SRO useful for at Morris Brandon are AM and PM carpool duty, especially at the main campus when we have to pay for an AM officer every day. That could save us $25,000 a year for what we pay for an officer as well. They help with drills. They help with all of the drills and safety coordinators that our school has that Miss Small has to take on, and it's a lot that a resource officer could take on the safety, make sure we're doing our fire drills, our evacuation drills, logging it properly, letting the state know, all of that stuff. They can work our after school events for all of our events that we have. Instead of requesting officers, SROs are happy, can be here. Our officer can be here and so forth. They can patrol both buildings. They can go to the fields. They can work with our students. And there's a whole lot of social emotional learning that's also in their job description because their job is to be a bridge between police and the community. So there's a lot of that's embedded in there as well. What schools currently have SROs? There's about 3 or 4 elementary schools that I know of that do. Similar elementary schools that are like us are Morningside, I do know. Boyd Elementary has one. There's a couple more. We definitely have the elementary middle schools. There's a couple of them that are combined in APS that also have SROs. They are not widely used across all of the elementary schools in APS, but I believe based off what Ashley sent to us on the FTEs for SROs, that sole elementary schools that don't have middle schools in them, that there are 3 or 4 schools that do have SROs out of, I'm not sure how many elementary, but probably around 60 elementary schools. What has been paid for by the foundation, paid for by individual donors? I did talk about that. Foundation has only funded primarily our window blinds. I didn't mention that. I meant to say that, but all of our rooms have blinds that can pull down that we can cover up any windows. Foundation did fund that. The bulk of our upgrades that we had this year were paid for by a private donor who worked with Foundation, but it wasn't necessarily Morris Brandon donors' money. It was a single family. Talked about the Raptor Visitor Center system. We talked about Centegix. Who covers security officers that help with carpool? I got that question. I wasn't quite sure what that one meant, but I put it on there. So it means like, what does an officer, if an officer has to do carpool, who's doing their duty? And in my viewpoint, if an officer is at school and on campus and supporting a rival, that's exactly what they should be doing. And then once the school starts, the officer will come into the building. Example is this morning, we have moved primary center. I have instructed them to stop carpool at 8:45. There's about 50 cars that are still in line. I want everybody to come in at 8:45, and I want Officer Harmon to come to the door at 8:45 and stand at the front. So every single parent and every student has to come in is getting a tardy slip. We have been very graceful with staying out there till nearly 8 o'clock. So we are trying to shut carpool off and get those students in the building. Is there a wait list for an SRO? Based off the form that I have, they did say there was 30 vacancies in SROs across the district. I don't know how that would impact Brandon. Brandon has a knack for getting the best people and getting great people in our school. So it would be difficult for me to say that we wouldn't be able to get an SRO. But I don't think there's a wait list. So there's somebody did ask me, like, are there schools ahead of us that get it before us? And that's not the case. If you have the money allotted for it, then you can openly hire whoever wants to come to your school to do that. Is the Godot grant, if it's used towards an SRO, how much do we need to budget from our local and federal dollars? It would be $72,000. An SRO is $112,000. It's the same price as a teacher. It's an FTE price. Don't forget those prices did go up as salaries went up. So if we're funding $45K a year, that would mean that about, well, you do the math. What did I say it was 72,000-ish per year to equal that 112. And that would come from our local and federal dollars. And I answered that one. And how can we ensure an SRO is not pulled for other district duties? Somebody asked me that question. I thought it was a good one because they get pulled a lot. We get like our coaches pulled and so forth like that. And I can't guarantee that, but I wouldn't think that would be something that would be like every day or anything like that. Could be like a monthly meeting or an SRO meeting or a training. I'm not quite sure of that. But if they work for our school and we're paying for them, they will be, on our campus. So I know most of these questions were around SROs, and that's because most of my questions I received were around that. Okay. All right. So GOTeam members are encouraged to ask any additional questions you have, any clarifying questions you have for our community. Any community members wishing for more engagement, obviously can reach out to me. We can definitely schedule a meeting, and we can sit down and have those conversations ourselves as well. Okay. GOTeam, do you guys have any questions for me before we move on to our slides or to our open forum? All right, great. All right, so I think I talked about this. By the way, I have to highlight some of the pictures. These are our students. I had to take out the other ones. This was our Black History Wax History Museum. It was very cool. This is one of our amazing fifth graders working hard in class. This is our attendance group that we've identified to help go to Sutton and begin their transitions there. And Sutton students are mentoring them. You can see them in the green, and our Brandon students are in the purple. And they are doing a lot of work with Mr. Rant and Sutton around attendance and growth and middle school acclimation. We love that group. It's called the SEEDS program. Okay, so I'm going to open up to our GOTeam. I have a little speaking format here. It's a little bit of an order. So you're welcome to come off mute and share. I have already completed my slide, so I will be quiet unless you ask me questions. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our next person. Again, you are welcome to ask questions or share anything you want, any feedback or any ideas. We are not voting today. We are not making any decisions today. This is a GOTeam feedback session, and it is exactly what APS has asked us to do for today. And I'll leave it to you, Ashley. You are up.
Yeah. So I guess I would like to know more about, what the SRO does after carpool duties. Do they just kind of hang out around the buildings, patrol the buildings? I did talk to a couple Morningside teachers that said that there's not a lot that the SRO does. So I don't know, could they be tasked to help out with something else
Great
that we
question.
need them to,
Yep. Great question.
at school? I also like the idea of using the funding to do, and I had a question about this. Did we already do sort of a full security evaluation
Yeah, great question. We do
with the
have
private grant?
Yeah, we do have a safe haven evaluation that was done a few years ago. I have both reports. Safe
Okay,
Haven
so we
is
have
the
had that
company
done.
that came in and did that. So we did have that. And we used a little bit of that feedback from me that I have read because they don't really want to sharing that information out. But a lot of the enhancements that we did, I will tell you over the summer and the beginning of the year, were enhancements that were also suggested in there. But I have more on the Safe Haven security audit. And if I'm able to share some of that, I have a note that I will totally do that, but we have had that.
Okay. And then I guess my other concern is like, where are we going to get this $72,000? So we don't have $72,000 right now. So is this something foundation could buy? I mean, I don't know how
Yeah, great
foundation
question.
funding works.
I am not. Great question. So let me start with your first one. Wants to know what an SRO does after the school starts. I will tell you right now, I think it's exciting. I think it's cool, and I think it would be a great idea to build that out for that. So if we were to move with an SRO, why don't we determine what they need to do after school starts? Because I will tell you that I don't get a position to sit around. That's not what we do at Brandon. We there are needs and there are safety things that we could put on them and to do and create a schedule, just like we've done it for our custodians that they need a minute by minute schedule as well. We've learned. So it's very similar to that. So I wouldn't be able to tell you all day, but I think we'd be able to build that out.
Okay.
Use the funds for a safety audit. That's doable. It's something we could do again, something to think about. We do have past audits that are about 2.5 years old. If we wanted to use those as well. And then you said, where do we get the 72K? You're right. Our budget has been approved right now for next year. I do want to remind everyone, there's no secret that we have about $175,000 that will come to us the 15th day of school if we make 893 students. Okay. We have talked about different ways to spend that money. We talked about gifted teachers, intervention teachers, a specialist to get our counselor out of specials and to give her another day. But I definitely think that that money could be used that way as well. And then you asked about the foundation. I will tell you that I'm not the foundation president. I'm not against private funding. I'm not. I think we could do that as well. But I don't. I'm not. I just not. I don't want to speak for the foundation. I don't.
So they have to decide if
They would have to vote on that and decide if that's how they want to spend it.
I don't know if you can use foundation money to pay payroll. We ran into that problem with Mary Plummer years ago, and she had to come off of the foundation page, bankroll because things like benefits, health insurance, retirement, security, background checks. So I would not assume that that is a way we can fund this.
okay.
great feedback. We did have an issue with Mary because they were paying her entire salary and she was here. I'm just going to provide a little clarity to that. Mary had to get background checked and get a badge, and she got her pay, and then Foundation supplemented that as well on top of that. I'm confident, and I'm playing like super neutral, but if we're going to go both ways, I am confident that if we use the security grant funds and then found other ways to pay, that we could transfer that somehow over to Brandon and then into a paycheck, that we could do that way. And I've talked to Applin about that in years past and it hasn't been shot down. So just want to put that out there. It's not going to be super easy. It's really the biggest hurdle would be, is that something Foundation is willing to fund every year?
So are we paying the patrol officers in the morning now? How are we paying them?
We pay our AM officer at the main campus through PTA. It's approximately 20 to 25,000 a year. Harmon at the primary center is he's given to us by APS for those 45
Okay.
minutes.
So could we pay for the SRO through PTA since we're paying $25,000?
I would lump your question into Foundation or PTA.
Okay, I'll put that on my notes.
Yeah, I think that we could explore both of that. I do know Foundation is the ones with the money though.
Yeah.
PTA doesn't, I don't know if they're going to have that amount of money every year type of thing.
Yeah, got it.
All right. So we're just taking ideas here. Anybody have any follow up with Ashley or any comments or anything for her? Go team. All right. Ashley, you have anything else?
No.
All right. Let's jump over to Kim. I know Kim might be a little incapacitated. She's trying
I'm
to
here.
take notes. Okay, she is here. I see you. Kim, do you want to take a couple minutes and share your thoughts?
I guess I just have one maybe add from the list that APS gave us. One thought also might be any like top of the line external training that we could do for our staff and teachers, that we could bring in some kind of consultant or whatnot. I know that Morris Brandon graciously is ahead of the game on a lot of the other things that we implemented last year that, other schools are just now thinking about ballistic film and all that stuff. So I just kind of wanted to think outside the box of, arming's the wrong word. That's the wrong word. Giving our staff and teachers maybe just some additional training, I think might be one possible way to use the funding. Yep.
Great question. I wrote it down. I will also tell you that I do believe there are people in APS that can do that training. We used to do a avoid, deny, defend. Admin gets it. I've had it before. But if we're looking for something a little bit more in depth from an outside party, absolutely pre-planning costs money. Good idea. Maggie, did you have something to say to her? I don't know why I looked at you.
The year before you came, Jay, we did have an outside consultant come in and do training with us. And then we do an annual training every year as part of for pre-planning with the avoid, deny, defend. But yeah, I'll talk about that when I get to my part. Thank you, Kim. Okay. I like that idea.
Right, yeah, great. I just, when you hear about these tragedies, you hear about all these great heroic teachers and staff doing their part. And I think a lot of it has to do with obviously them, but like the training that they receive. So if we can, that was just an idea. But that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Kim. All right. Any follow up for Kim? All right. Maggie, you're up. You ready?
Okay. All right, y'all. So first of all, I do want to say I am really proud of our school and I'm really thankful to our parents who've advocated so much around security, because I just, as somebody who sits in the room with those children during those drills, as somebody who's taught after Uvalde and Sandy Hook, I think about this more than probably anybody ever should. So that's a little background on where I'm coming at this from. And so a couple of things. The $45,000. So one of the best things we ever did was put those little magnet strips on the doors, right? So if anyone doesn't know this, all the doors are locked all the time. We have these cheap little magnets. And as soon as something happens, you can just pull that magnet off. The door is locked. You don't have to go looking for your key, rush around, and it saves you so much time. And if you've ever looked into any of this stuff, those minutes matter so much, right? And then the window, the ballistic glazing on the windows, that buys us a few more minutes, which I love. Or a few more minutes. But what I'd really like us to think about is door barricade devices. I've seen a bunch of options online. They're not expensive. We could put them in every classroom, whether it's a computer lab where nobody has a, where whatever's going on, because once that glass does get broken, so that glaze doesn't last forever, but once it does get broken, those doors unlock from the inside. And so if we had a way to really barricade the door a little better, then that buys us even more time and more minutes. So that gives, as somebody who thinks about this a lot, that would be something that's really cheap. It's really easy. If they take away our funding next year, or if we only get half of it, or if it doesn't come through at all, if PTA or foundation has to pick this up, that feels like something that would have a lasting impact for a long time. When we did go through our training and outside consulting years ago, one of the things that came through really loud and clear was we need lots of layers, right? Like it's not one thing, it's not one person, it's lots of layers that people can go to because things are going to go wrong, right? Like that was one of the things in the training was that these are all the different scenarios that can happen, and you have to be ready to have lots of things to pull from and have at your disposal. So that's one thing I'd really like us to look at is those door barricade devices. And then the fencing that we added is so great, but it's not done. We've got to get, I can't lock the gate at the playground entrance. So like even for just like a child running out of the gate, it doesn't lock right now. So that's a safety issue. That's just a really common practical thing. It's not anybody being bad. It's a kindergartner got loose. Like we need to be able to lock that gate. We do need badge readers on the external gates right there where the driveway is, because right now they're just open. And I would even love to see on that driveway gate where the cars come through, I would love to see it. If it's open, it's beeping and it's annoying until somebody goes out there and shuts it. Those kind of things, I think we actually could cover in $45,000. That might be naive. I actually think we could cover it and it would last for years. And as somebody who plans to be here for years, I would like to see an impact made that's going to stick around. And then if we get more money, we can build on it. So those are some things I'm thinking with the money. Now, having said all of that, if we already are paying $25,000 at the MC for a morning police officer, and we need to cover $72,000 for an SRO, then maybe $50,000 isn't that bad. I don't love the idea of having one SRO for 2 buildings. To me, that just doesn't seem like it would make a huge difference. But if that's something that the community really, really cares a lot about and they're okay with the 2 buildings, 1 person, then one idea we could do, when we got our new playground at the PC years ago, that did not come out of foundation. That was a separate fundraiser. We reached out to the community and said, we want a playground. You're all going to use it. Who wants to chip in? And people did. So I think that's something we could talk about. If we were like, listen, we can cover, if we had 45 and then we used 22 from the MC morning police officer, or 25 from what we paid for the MC morning officer, maybe we could close that other gap with separate fundraising. If people care a lot about it, if it really is something that the whole community supports, I don't think it'd be a problem to get people to do it. I don't know though. But my bigger concern, if we've got this money, we don't know how long we have it, we don't even know if it's coming. I want to see I want to see improvements on the building that are going to stay, they're going to last year to year, and they're going to add another layer that's not dependent on somebody who could get sick, whose car tire could be flat, who could not have good cell service, or there's so many things that can go wrong when it's left up to human error. And our kids and our teachers deserve better than that. So that's where I am. That's where I stand. And I'm excited about the vestibules. That's a long time coming. So I'm very excited about that.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Maggie. Any dialogue for Maggie that is on GOTeam? Okay, great. I'm going to hand it over to LaJoy. LaJoy, do you want to take a minute to say anything?
Yes, I do. And I'm just nice that Maggie was for me because some of the points that she made, I resonate with. Just thinking about, whatever we're going to do, just thinking about sustainability, right? So if we are going to make improvements to the building or hire someone, like it should be something that we can do long term. But another piece that I've been thinking of too, and I love the outpouring of support we've got in the community, but I know sometimes like the sleepy wheel gets the oil. And so my thoughts too are just around like, how do we make sure that whatever we decide to do with the funding is going to be something that is going to make all of our students feel safe too, whether that's a school resource officer or whatever it is, just making sure that we are able to keep in mind like all of our and all of our parents. And I don't know if that was like, opening up the discussion, having like survey or more like town hall meetings around the funding and what that could look like, just so that everyone's prepared, because I know there is probably, a population of our parents don't even know about this or that this is coming and what those changes for our schools need and why those changes for our schools. So those are just kind of my thoughts. Like, I don't know what that looks like, but that's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
Great. Got about 90% of that. I just want to make sure I have it, LaJoy. That your feedback is just around that whatever we do with the money, we want to make sure that it benefits all students, that we're garnering feedback from all community members. Okay. I think that was the gist of it.
Yep.
Awesome. Any feedback for LaJoy, GOTeam, or LaJoy, you got anything else? Okay.
No, that's the gist of it. Thank you.
All right. Mindy, charge it to my head, not my heart. You're up next. I skipped you. I'm sorry.
Totally fine. And told you, I was like, oh, I don't have anything to say. And then just listening to Maggie, I think that she is spot on. I really love a lot of those suggestions. And the only addition I have to that is some kind of communication tool for every teacher in every classroom, whether that be like a walkie with a charging base. Sometimes, again, you have a teacher who's responsible for bringing something out to, the walkie out to the playground, and they have a sub that day, or, their charger didn't work. So I think something that would help teachers communicate with the office for everyone would be great.
Yeah.
That's my only add.
Great feedback. Anything for Mindy, team? Any questions, clarifying?
So I have a question. So none of the teachers have a walkie-talkie right now, or they have like an intercom, right, in their room, and then.
Well, you do have an intercom that works to go to the office.
Yeah.
I will say if, the office staff is busy, it isn't always, immediately answered. I think that the new badges that we have though will help that like fill that gap for the emergencies. However, safety isn't just about school shootings and, those kinds of severe cases. Safety is about keeping our kids safe and responding to when they fall on the playground or, something like that as well. So walkies are in some classrooms, typically, I think grade level chairs. But like the more the better, in my opinion.
And then just to add some context, each grade level should have one walkie, if not two, and those go outside of recess every time. So there's always a walkie outside of recess, primarily for injuries, which, they need nurse oxygen every day. I hear it on there. So, but I like the idea of every teacher having a walkie.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Morningside, they have 42 homerooms, and all 42 have a walkie. Yeah.
That's something we could look at foundation.
Right.
Too.
Great ideas. Great suggestions. Let's keep rolling because we are well over the 4 o'clock public comment start time. So let's go to we got Ashley Mathis is next. I know Ashley's a little predisposed. She did tell me that, and I tried to answer some of her questions early. Ashley, is there anything you want to say? Are you on the call?
I don't think she is, Jay.
Okay. She had written some of those questions that I tried to review early on. Let's jump down to Thomas Forsberg.
Hey, Jay. Maggie covered really any thought that I was having. Panic room doors was the only thought that I have. But look, Maggie and so many of the other, GOTeam members, so much more knowledgeable than I am. So I'm going to cede my time to the floor so we can get to public comment.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Thomas. Let's jump down to Lena.
Hi, and I don't have much new stuff to add. I think Maggie, that was the one thing on my list was the door locks. What could we do if you don't have access to a key, like how can we lock those doors, like quickly get in. That was my kind of thing that I had. Also, another thing that wouldn't cost us any money, if maybe this is later down the line, if we know that the grant is coming our way, is to survey our staff. They live in the building, so they, might have some great suggestions for how to amp up security as well.
I'm just writing this down. Awesome, thank you. I'm getting a lot of great suggestions, and I do think a lot of these could be done, without the security grant, right? Like these are things that we need to be able to do and to layer. Okay, great. Any feedback for Lena? Anybody have anything for her? We are almost to our public comments. So I'm going to close it out with Ina, who's going to go next. If you have anything to share, Ms. Brooks.
I actually was just gonna say exactly what Lena said, asking the staff, since they're actually the ones that are in the building the most of the time all the time with the children. Maggie also made great points about enhancements, how enhancements stay for years and years, even if, in case this grant is just a one thing, then, these enhancements are still on the building. And that's really it. We can open it up to the public.
All right, great. All right, GOTeam, I'm going to give you guys any more chances that you want to go. Anybody want to say anything else, GOTeam? All right, so let's move on. Public comment. We're down here 30 minutes. Y'all know what to do. Raise your hand. Looks like Jenny is up. Jenny, I'm going to set a timer, not to rush you off, but just to make sure that we got a little bit of time sense. Okay, so Jenny, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and go.
Sure. So I just want to preface this by I'm a parent at Brandon with a first grader and a fourth grader, and I was one of 3 parents who were intimately involved in working with the private foundation last summer to get the glass glazing and the fencing updated. Me and the 2 other parents did about a month worth of probably 20 hours a week of research in best practices for safety and security for elementary schools. So the thing with the SRO is that elementary schools are the most likely schools to have an intruder from outside trying to get in, versus middle school and high schools. A lot of times the issue is within the school, either a student or parent, things like that, who are already inside. So my thoughts on the SRO, I just took a few notes and I'll try to go through quickly. What an SRO can do, when we were doing our research, their job could basically be to pretty constantly check the doors and gates of the school to make sure they are closed and secure, make sure nobody's propping doors or gates open, walking the perimeter to make sure there's nothing impeding the ability for the fencing to do its job. Currently at Brandon, it's no one person's job to handle security, and think about that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And after doing the research I did, we really need someone to be able to dedicate their brain space to that. The reality is that our admin have very full jobs of a lot of other things that they have to consider and think about, and security isn't, the only thing that they have to think about. And I think having someone that has that dedicated role would be a really nice layer to our approach. What Maggie Lee said about layering, I mean, couldn't be more spot on. When we did our research, layers, it's just like when we talked about COVID back in the day, having those different layers of protection against the virus, same exact thing. Layering against security, giving us extra time, and giving the teachers and students and the staff extra time to get themselves in a safe position is really what we want to do. I am the first person to say I do not think an SRO is going to be the end all be all and solve all our problems, but I do think they're a great layer to that approach. I also think that they do deter people from thinking about attacking a specific school. The Covenant shooting is a great example of that. The shooter decided not to go to other schools because they had security. So I think, just another layer. As for paying for things, I was on the B Fund this year. We raised more than anticipated. We have an auction coming up. There is money in the foundation to be used. And I am not on the foundation, but in my personal opinion, we should be prioritizing security and safety for our students and our staff And that needs to be something that needs to be prioritized within the foundation. We pay $25,000 from, the school budget per year for this carpool officer. That could be offloaded, like Maggie said. I do think the foundation should be paying for any kind of scanners, badge readers, any kind of fixing fencing that we fix. I didn't know that there was a gate that didn't lock. And we can talk about that. I may be able to get our fencing guys back out to fix that. Locks on the gate, gates, and then door barricade devices is actually something we discussed during the private funding, and kind of how to prioritize that. That was definitely on the list. But again, I really truly think our foundation and our PTA budgets and things like that need to also be prioritizing security, and it needs to be a layered approach, but also across the board from everyone. I will lastly say, as a member of the community, I think private fundraising for this specific situation could be very successful. And I think there are a lot of members in the community that are really wanting and hoping for this. I was big on the building implementation and the single measures up front. But I think the further we go along, the SRO just makes sense from a security standpoint of having someone focus on that role. So I'm happy to answer any questions and happy to show anyone the presentation that we gave to a select group of community members and staff last year when we were researching all of this. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Let's look for some more hands. It looks like we've got Mary Catherine on here. Mary Catherine, are you okay to go next and potentially turn your camera on so we can see you?
Oh, she's still on mute.
If you're talking, we can't tell, Mary Catherine, but I'm calling on you. So if you want to turn your camera on and go, we are ready for you.
Oh, she's texting me. She can't unmute.
All right. I'm gonna, I may have had to mute her because, so I'm gonna ask you to unmute. Tell me if you are able to. Still no? Mary Catherine, if you want to jump off and jump back on, I'll let you back in. I'm not sure. I'm clicking the ask to unmute button, but I don't think I can manually unmute you. Okay. Sorry. So jump off, come back in. I'll let you in. All right, let's go to our next person. Looks like we have Sister coming up next. Are you ready to speak, Sister, and potentially turn your camera on so we can see you?
Yes, I will actually keep my camera off. I've got the bug that is actually going around Morris Brandon right now, so I couldn't look worse. So I'll spare you all that. But this was important for me to be here today, so I just wanted to jump on. So thanks again for your consideration of all the security measures. I know it's a lot to take in. We've had some fantastic building upgrades, like we have been touched on over the last year, which we are just thrilled about. So our buildings, I feel like, are going to be in pretty good safety shape, especially if we get our vestibules. But so looking at the list of possibilities on how to spend the funds, and SRO is the gap we still have, in my opinion, and would be the highest and best use of these funds, especially once we factor in what we're already paying for carpool SROs and school event SROs and things like that. Once you do that math, I think y'all are absolutely right about the layered approach, all absolutely important and things to look at. I totally agree with that. And like Jenny said, it doesn't stop. If we were to choose an SRO, it absolutely doesn't stop there. But again, I think with the amount of funds that are going to be given, it's, again, the highest and best use to fund an SRO here, and perhaps look at the door lock costs and see if we can potentially fund that in another way. So that's just my 2 cents.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Sister, for that feedback, and I've written that down. Thank you. Let's go on to our next person. Let me also just make sure that Mary Catherine is back. So here we go. Let's see if we can get her in. All right, Mary Catherine, are you able to come off mute if you are in the room? Still asking me to unmute. Okay. Let's see. It sounds like she's not able to come off mute. What I can tell you, Mary Catherine, if you want to call my cell, you're welcome to, and I can patch you through. I do have your number because you're an APS employee, just so everybody knows that. She has my cell number. She also substitutes at Morris Brandon. So Mary Catherine, if you want to call me, I'll put you on hold just for a second, and then I can have you come off and you can just speak into the camera. That's totally fine. All right. All right, looks like Liz, you ready?
Hey guys, am I unmuted? First of all, thanks everybody. Thank y'all for letting us provide public comment, and thank you guys for everything y'all do for our school. For those who don't know me, I'm a parent of a kindergartner and a second grader. I'm a lawyer by training, former law enforcement background with the Attorney General's office, and had a close personal connection to an administrator at the Covenant School, which sort of got me interested and really focused on school safety issues and all the things that that school did right with the horrible thing that happened there a year ago. It's great to hear all the wonderful ideas and really value what the teachers and folks who do this day by day say. And I think a layered approach is wonderful. I do think that there is a need for an SRO. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but many folks know one thing that really worried me in sending our kids to Morris Brandon was that Morris Brandon is the only, if you think about the schools and the footprint of where Morris Brandon sits, all of the preschools have armed security. The APS middle schools have armed security. The high schools have armed security. So if you think about it in terms of a risk profile of the area, we are the only, the public APS schools in our footprint are the only folks without security, which is just a really, really scary thought. I love the idea. And I think, we've been having these conversations for the past year. I love the idea of being able to raise private fundraising for specific things. And I will be the first to roll up my sleeves and help in any way. I think that was something that we were told a year ago wasn't possible. So I'm glad to hear that we may be shifting a little bit in that. We have the most incredible community and we love our amazing staff and teachers, and we want to keep y'all safe and we want to keep the kids safe, and we'd be happy to help. I think my last comment is, and I think this sort of echoes something Jenny was saying, I think that one thing that, you guys as a GOTeam don't get enough funding. $10 million is a lot of money, but I know you go through it fast. And I know the administrators have so much, and the staff, y'all have so much on your plates. Sort of having someone at a 10,000 foot view to look at security, I think would be really helpful. As we walk the campus with the glass glazing company, that was one of the things they said to us, that this isn't fair that this falls on folks who are also responsible for getting those science milestone test scores up and this, that, and the other. I know resources are spread thin, so I would hope an SRO could provide sort of that enterprise-wide view of how we can help security. The gate at the primary campus by the playground, I'll get phone calls and text messages, hey, it's open, and I'll drive over there. I live by the main campus, but if I'm working from home, I'll go over there and I will close it. And I know security is everybody's responsibility, but right now it seems like, getting security for election day when it's a voting spot and the rare days where we do have school, just sort of like big picture thinking through things. One last thing, one of the wonderful things learnings that I think came out of the last year was the importance of substitute teacher training. And I know Ms. Nails has done an awesome job on that. But just training the substitute teachers and the difference between an active shooter alarm and a fire alarm. There are just a lot of things and a lot of horribly scary things to think about. And so it would be wonderful to have an SRO or someone else at a 10,000 foot view who could always kind of be thinking proactively about how to keep our kids safe. But appreciate all that y'all do. If we do fundraise, would love to help in any way, and grateful just to be a part of a wonderful school community. So thank you guys for the time you dedicate to the GOTeam.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Liz, for that. And let's see, who would like to go next? Mary Catherine, do you want to try and jump off, or do you want to call me? Yep, you're good.
I think I'm working.
Yes, you're working. Go for it. You're up.
I'm out of town. Sorry. So I hope I'm not repeating anything because I came off for a little bit. So I've worked at North Atlanta and Sutton. My only concern is, honestly, guys, there's not going to be much for them to do during the day. And my concern, I love the idea of fundraising for this position, because my concern, if it comes out of the budget, we are missing out on something else. I don't know what we're missing out on, but we are going to be missing out on something, whether it's a gifted teacher or a counselor or something important. I'm not saying security is not important. I think it's very, very important, but I just think that we need to realize that we are going to miss out on something else. So if we could fundraise, that would be amazing. And really, there's not going to be much for them to do during the day. just my 2 cents.
Okay, great. I appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much. And I'm going to open it up. I don't see any more hands, but I don't want to miss any. It looks like there might be one hand raised. Yes, Emily, I see you now. Emily, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you. I just want to reiterate what a lot of people have already said. Thank you guys for taking public comment and letting us come here and kind of give our just feedback on all of this. And thank you for your time that you dedicate to this. And just thank y'all for, Jay, for your leadership. And we, I think we all come as, on the same team and want to know, want you all to know that we are not here to be antagonists, but really just to talk collectively about what's going on. I really enjoy hearing everyone's perspective. I think that with for a long time, like SROs weren't needed at elementary schools. They're really weren't. Things have just changed and shifted in society, unfortunately, to where it's just kind of like a no-brainer at this point to have them. I know a lot of other states and districts. I mean, my hometown, like people are just moving towards getting SROs at elementary schools now. I was listening on the Morningside Elementary School GOTeam call last week, or maybe it was the beginning of this week, and just hearing them, how they talked about so endearingly about their SRO and how their principal was saying how much that person, the SRO, impacts their staff and their peace of mind there. I think they have a really good one, and hopefully we get a really great one too. I think that would be a great person to look at as what do they do? What is their role, responsibilities? What makes them so great, that SRO? And then, also I will do whatever it takes to get the money for this. I'll go door to door. I mean, I think the feedback I've gotten anytime I've ever talked to anyone about this, and I talked to a lot of people about it, I've been talking to a lot of people about it for a year, is that we'll pay the money, we will raise the money. So whatever it takes. I think there's a lot of people also looking at Morris Brandon and trying to consider are we going to come to Morris Brandon? Are we going to stay at Morris Brandon? And I think this SRO is a huge sticking point for a lot of people. And maybe it's just people I'm talking to, but I mean, it's a big sticking point for me. And that's why I've been pushing this so hard for so long, because it's so important to me. I mean, I agree about the layered approach, and I'm so thankful for everything that's been done up until now. I think this is just something that is just highly needed and requested by the community. So thank you all for listening to all of us and taking that in consideration.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. I appreciate that for your comments. And we're going to go next to Meg. Meg, you ready?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm kind of in a similar position to Sister as not being able to share my video right now, so I apologize for that. But I have Merritt in first grade in Miss Gaither's class, and we'll also have James in kindergarten next year. And want to reiterate what everyone said, thanking Jay and the GOTeam and the teachers and everyone for their hard work and involvement on this. I think just to kind of piggyback on Miss Bleeze's conversation about private fundraising, I think just trying to look ahead, one issue we all foresee is staffing, and that was directly mentioned, I know, in the options, that there are 30 vacancies with APS security. If we were allowed to privately fundraise, I think that we could get an off-duty security officer like a lot of these neighborhoods have. And then if we did want to use the funding for an SRO, we could have someone at each campus. And I also think, touching on, they're not going to have a lot to do. I think I know I attended the town hall in the fall with Chief Applin and the Centegic system. I've asked him for an update on that, when it's going to roll out, but the training of the staff, all these things, like someone else mentioned, that the teachers and Jay have such full plates. Just that constant training and making sure everything's up to date, and training the teachers on the Centegic system. And when it rolls out would be there. It seems like there'd be plenty for them to do, personally, but those are just my thoughts. Thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Meg. All right, getting a lot of good notes here. Emily, I'm going to lower your hand if that's okay, in case you have to go again.
Sorry.
All right, cool. I'm going to lower your hand, Margaret, Meg. And then it looks like we are kind of nearing that 4:30 time. So I want to make sure I respect everybody's time. And if there's anybody else that wants to come off mute, that can be for GOTeam or community parent members. Just raise your hand now if you don't mind letting me know. Okay. All right. I encourage you all to check the chat. Kelly did drop in the SRO job duties in there if you want to take a look at that and save that. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, what's next? So I'm going to take feedback. I'm going to complete the Godot feedback form prior to the submission date, which is tomorrow. It's not necessarily finalized. It's the initial GOTeam suggestion. Okay. I'm going to update the GOTeam on any next steps at our next meeting. All right. I got a couple phone calls to make. I would like to do a survey of our staff as well. I want to remind everybody that this survey is not finalized. It can be reviewed. It can be altered. And next year is going to be the big year and looking at it that way. If anybody has to follow up with me or wants to set up a phone call or chat or meet with me, I'm happy to do that. I want to remind everybody that our last GOTeam is April 25th. And I want to leave everybody with sort of just one thing, one thought, and I'm going to say it this way. We always have room for improvements at Morris Brandon. I'm never going to be the principal that is going to be naive enough to say that we will never need an SRO, but we always need new and innovative and next steps. It's a different day than it was 30 years ago. We do know that, okay? So I am completely neutral right now, and I want everybody to know that I'm not sitting here saying we're not going to get an SRO and we're just listening to you for no reason, okay? I'm also not going to sit here and say that we're going to fundraise, okay? And I want to make it clear that if we're going to get an SRO, I want to use our security grant and I want to use our general funds. We ask our parents for a lot. We ask them for so much. I feel guilty when we still have parents pay $110 for dues when we have over $300,000 sitting in our foundation. Every foundation meeting I go to, we're trying to figure out how to spend funds. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's going to come from foundation or PTA, but I'm going to ask you, is that fundraising for an SRO is going to get us through maybe a year? You have to think about 30 years of SROs. Once you get an SRO at Morris Brandon and it's not going to go anywhere, you can't pull it out. And I'm not going to fundraise for a police officer every year or for long reasons and only have those that have the means and the money be hit up for money again, because those are the ones that donate anyway. I truly feel like we have options to fund an SRO if that's what I decide to do. And I have some ideas for that. But doing a public campaign for security, I believe does not look great for our school and for our district. And that if we have funds, we spend them through our general budget, which we have about $145,000 coming 15 days into the school year. And we use our foundation or PTA budget if that's the route that we want to go. With that said, I'm going to let GOTeam one more time, close it out if they have anything they want to say. And then I'm going to go ahead and just hand it over to Ashley to close our meeting out. All right, Ashley, it's all you.
All right. So announcement wise, Jay put up here, our next GOTeam is April 25th. I did want to make an announcement from NAPS. We are going to be having our spring IB information night on April 10th, and you should be seeing some flyers going out there. Last year, we had the Georgia Tech admissions counselor giving stats on our North Atlanta IB students versus the private schools. We had former students of Ivy Leagues and families. And we had all of the IB directors and some students there talking about the IB program and how it's such a differentiator in the North Atlanta cluster. We are also going to have childcare. So that is a huge thing this year, funded by NAPS as well. So that's April 10th. I wanted to make sure that everyone knew about that. Anyone else have any announcements? Our auction Saturday night.
Auction Saturday night. Also on the agenda, Ashley, there was a little thing on there for hiring update. I can just give 30 seconds just so everybody knows that we are well underway for hiring. We have hired a new clerk who's going to be full-time that will be transitioning to the primary center, and then Mr. Rock will be moving to the main campus for full-time next year. So we're excited about that. We have hired a new K2 autism teacher because Miss McCracken is leaving. So we will have him there. It's actually a guy. We're excited about that. We've hired a new 0.5 ESOL and EIP teacher who's taking the place of Miss Bartlett, who is separating. We've hired a new 4th grade teacher. It's a male. Excited about that. He's going to be great. He's taking the place of a teacher that is separating. We've hired 2 new 2nd grade teachers because we're increasing 2nd grade from 6 to 8 teachers. So we're really excited about our 2 new hires down in 2nd as they move from to 8 teachers. We have hired 2 new kindergarten teachers. We have 2 K teachers that are leaving, and we've already made recommendations for hire for 2 new phenomenal ones. Currently, we only have 2 vacancies. The vacancy we have is for a kindergarten paraprofessional and for our new position, which is called the Readers Are Leaders position, which is our new literacy position that was afforded to us by the Atlanta Public Schools. We're going to hire that internally. It's going to create another vacancy in our building, and we'll have to fill that on the back end. So we are in a great place for hiring and for staffing. And I want you to know we move quickly with that. And that's how you get the best candidates. So I wanted to make sure everybody knows that that we got some great people coming in next year.
And then we have GOTeam elections coming up as well.
Yes, that is a great point. I actually just asked Diane Jacoby about that.
Me too.
Oh, you did? Good.
Well,
It's
she
April
promised me
16th.
information this week and I haven't seen anything. So
Okay. Yeah, so it's April 16th through the 25th is when we're going to be voting on GOTeam. So about a month from now.
Okay, great.
All right, so it looks like we've reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business at this time? Not? Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll motion. Adjourn.
Thanks, Lena. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Thomas. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, the meeting is adjourned at 4:40 p.m.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Talk soon. Close it out.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.